Motivation and preparation led to a new sensation, new creation. That's what you're facing. Now watch my elevation.
The last topic we're going to discuss on Boxing Bros are comments made by Andre Ward, which basically he questions why fighters pay sanctioning bodies, why there's so many sanctioning body fees, and he speaks on the impact it has on you later on in life. We're going to listen to what Andre Ward had to say, and then we'll discuss it in greater detail. All right, so let's take a look. Andre Ward, this video appears courtesy of Fight Hype. Subscribe to Fight Hype.
Got to do it. But that's why, for me, man, I try to do my part to speak out about things like the sanction fees. And I know I get brushed to the side, but we're going to keep talking about it because that stuff doesn't make sense to me. And it's funny, I had somebody say, well, you posted these bills, but you were talking out about the sanction fees. I paid for them. Every single one of them. But if we're giving these sanctioning bodies houses, cars, and tuition, and we can't tell you, right? They tell us, you guys need to watch your money and be responsible. Yeah, but part of being responsible is knowing where my money is going. They can't answer for us where the money's going. And I know Mauricio Suleiman sent me a message sending me all these documents about these funds and different things like that. I don't, number one, that's not tangible for me. I don't see where that's helping people, number one. Number two, if my money is going to go to help somebody else, I should have a say on if I'm paying into that or not. But how is that helping me? Where's my pension plan? Where's my medical? Where's my health? So this is what I tell the sanctioning bodies. And I've been wanting to do this, but why not? It's a perfect place. Man, and this isn't like a challenge. I'm not like trying to argue with them, but I really want to gain some understanding. If they can educate me and say, hey, you didn't know about this. This is what, hey, I would love that. That'd put me at ease. It's nothing personal with these guys. I've had good relationships with these sanctioning bodies to a point. But let's have an open forum when we talk about it.
They don't want to.
Let's have an open forum when we talk about it. It could be individually. I could take them one at a time. BC, BA, IBF, BO. When is the money? Where's the money go? Who came up with 3%? Why is it not optional to pay for this? Why is boxing one of the only sports, if not the only sport, where you got to pay to compete for a championship? Why don't we have any say in this? Who's watching you guys with the rankings to make sure that the people you put in certain positions are people that should be in certain positions to fight for certain belts? Let's talk about it.
Well, it seems like sometimes they do what the promoters want them to do. You know, that they'll call one fight, they'll say this is a mandatory now, and then it's like they get a phone call and never mind, it's not the mandatory.
So we know what we know, but I don't want to. I want to give them an opportunity to speak for themselves. And let's give some clarity to the fans. Let's give some clarity to the media. Let's give some clarity to the fighters that are paying into this. Because how do they survive if we don't pay into that? That's how my brain works. Maybe I'm a little bit too radical with it, but my thing is, if we don't pay, how do y'all eat? So we can't say that, we want our fighters to be better off when they retire when there's 7 hands in the pot. So when I get my check, sanction fee, this, that. And then you're bound contractually, right? Like, if it was up to me and I didn't have a contract with Kovalev to give him a shot at the belts the second time, I'd have dropped all those belts. I don't need them. So they get you in the beginning, right? You want to be a champion. I want to be a champion. You want to touch that belt. But then you get it and it's like, man, this belt ain't even real. Like it means something.
So what do you think all this undisputed that's been like?
Talking about I love it right to a point. Like the dudes that are taking a risk to do it, I understand it. I'm like, man, do that. That's legacy stuff. But then my business hat comes on right away, and I'm like, man, you're paying for a sanctioning body.
People just step in line and agree.
So that's why I've always kind of been, I don't even know how to describe myself and like what I've been to the sport, but like I get into good trouble, man, in boxing because I don't have a problem. Like, and I can do it with a smile on my face, challenging the status quo, challenging stereotypes, and challenging things that have been in boxing, and nobody can really tell me why they're in boxing. Why does the manager get 33 and the third in boxing off the gross?
Should be negotiable.
Why is 25% the norm? Why is 20% the norm? Why is 10% the norm? Why are we paying 3% of sanction fees? Who came up with that? Why does a promoter get 25% at times, depending on the situation? Why does a fighter, if they lose a fight, all the minimums that they worked hard to negotiate, we can renegotiate those, or we can let you go. But if you do something, I can't walk away from my contract. So I know we're not supposed to talk about this stuff. I know we're supposed to just keep our head down and keep going along and get along. But I'm just not wired like that. Like I can go along to a point, but then at a certain point, I'm gonna start asking some tough questions. So what does that have to do with the Hall of Fame? All of this stuff is intertwined. Because every fighter that's getting inducted, they had to face this, they had to deal with this. And when you call it quits, you're looking at them bank accounts like, man, do I have what I'm supposed to have? And then you start to do the math. We giving sanctioning bodies cars, tuition, and houses. That's a problem. We need some clarity. We need some oversight over these sanctioning bodies so they can't just do what they want to do and rank somebody arbitrarily or strip somebody arbitrarily. I got real stories that happened to me. Real stories. So even though we don't want to talk about it, we need to talk about it. And I'm going to continue to talk about it, no matter the cost.
You want something for the fight.
So I'm going to stop it there. Remember, this video is on Fight Hype, so if you want to watch the whole thing, you can just go check it out on Fight Hype. Now, Andre Ward is saying we need to talk about it, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about it. Conspira G, what was your reaction to what Andre Ward had to say about the sanctioning bodies, the fees being 3%, even talking about them having to pay their promoters and management companies 25%, and then looking back when you're retired and saying, wow, all this money I paid on these sanctioning fees, would have been useful for me and my family.
Yeah. So there's so much. I'll first say Andre Ward is 1,000% correct on these questions. However, I kind of feel like where maybe Andre Ward and myself may split is I'm more of a realist. I just know how the world works and I accept it for what it is. You got to pay to play, right? You could say, what if we all just stop doing something, right? But the reason why that doesn't work, right, is because it's always going to be certain people that go, but I want that WBC belt. I want that WBA belt. I'm willing to pay whatever. Oh, you're telling me if I pay X amount, I could cut the line and get an opportunity to have that belt? All of that boxing fraternity stuff's out the window. You know what I'm saying? It's like there's no unity when it comes to accolades, right? Everyone's selfish to a degree. It isn't until fighters get older, more established, and they realize, these belts mean nothing. Yeah, they're shiny, but they mean nothing. And it sounds crazy to me. To be the undisputed champion, that means you got to give like 12% of your pay just to be undisputed. That's a hefty tax. So when people look at like Tank's not really going for all these belts and second and third, like, does he need to? And that's why I always go, like, it's a business first. Like, legacy's cool, but my kids can't eat legacy. You know what I'm saying? So, like, sometimes you gotta think longevity, right? But on the flip side, though, it's like boxing to me is kind of like it's like criminal activity, right? Like, walk with me on this. I'm trying to make sense, right? I'm thinking about it in my mind. So, but it's like you're trying to get put on to something, but dudes have it on smash, and they're like, "Yo, if you want to get put on, you got to join my squad." Now, you could easily go, nah, I do it on my own. But if these dudes got all the resources, they got all the money, they got all the fighters, they got everything, you just a guy like across the street by yourself. So what do? You're like, yo, man, I want an opportunity. I want to get on network television. I want to fight, this champion. I want to do, you got to pay to play. You got to sign that contract. They're like, yo, you want to do this? You got to sign with our network. You could be like, nah, I'm gonna be rebellious. I don't want to do that, but then you don't get the opportunity. So it's like a lot of these fighters. Andre Ward's 100% correct. You think dudes want to sign these? You think dudes want to give away like half of their pay to a bunch of guys that ain't in the gym with them? No, but they got to do it just to get put on. You know what I mean? The same thing goes with other athletes in other sports. Same thing goes with actors, with rappers and other entertainers. They all have to pay to play. That's just how the system is. And until all the key players, right, all the stakeholders come together and like, yo, we're not going to allow this to happen anymore. Like, I still don't even understand why we don't have some type of life insurance policy for fighters, right? Like, and I don't think it's necessarily the sanctioning body's jobs to do it. You know, it'd be nice if they could, you know what I mean? Because they are like global nonprofits, right? But that's not one of their charges for their organizations to, you know, provide financial safety nets for all their fighters that participate in, you know, their governing, their sanctioning or whatever. So to me, it should be a separate. I don't know if it should be the government. It should be some type of entity that creates that. And then I think even if you force it on all the fighters, it's required that you have to give X percentage of your pay, your purse, to this fund, this pool of funds. But when you retire, you get to reap those funds in your retirement, what have you. Right? At first, fighters may be against it, but I guarantee when they're older, they're gonna be grateful that they participated. So we kind of got to make these systems happen. The government got to step in, you know. But if the government doesn't step in, it is what it is. I just don't see everybody, you know, coming together like, yeah, we're gonna go up against the sanctioning bodies. Like Ward, you may do it, right? There's a few guys that may do it, but there's gonna be a lot of examples first. It's just like starting a union at your job. The first couple of people that try to start the union, most likely they're gonna get fired. They're gonna get penalized. They're gonna get blackballed. It isn't until a large group of people finally like, all right, we can't fire everybody. I guess we got to create this union. That's what's going to happen.
All right, Dollar Bill.
Let's talk about it. Let's just say, I don't know, man. Sanctioning bodies, right? There should only be one. The Boxing Bros. Right? That's how I'm gonna start that off. It should only be one. Second, with Andre Ward, there was a couple of things that I do agree with. The things that I have mentioned on this show before. And then I probably came off a little bit of what they say as a hopeless romantic, right? You know, because I do care. I do care about these fighters after boxing. You know I'm not supposed to, right? You know, but I do. And I wonder, because the sanctioning fees, they said that they go to these different programs and they go to this different, but what about all these fighters with medical, like Andre Ward was saying, that didn't make a lot of money, that y'all took sanctioning fees from and stuff like that? What are y'all doing to help these fighters in the end? You know, when these fighters can't make their mortgage and stuff like that. What are y'all doing to help these fighters? If y'all taking so much from these fighters, somebody said they take up from 10%, not only 3%, to upwards to 10% for sanctioning fees. And you got other people that's in their pockets. Nobody is caring about these fighters. And I always talk about on this show, I get it. These guys are getting paid whatever for whatever they do. And I know there's other guys like bungee jumping professionals that risk their lives too. But I'm talking about this sport of boxing, you know, where I think that there should be things in play, you know, to help these young men, especially when they're being robbed by these sanctioning bodies. You know, they're literally being robbed and taken advantage of, like Andre Ward said. So these guys can send their kids off to school so they can drive these expensive cars and buy these outlandish houses off the blood, sweat, and tears of these men that are in these rings. You know, if you're not doing nothing, you shouldn't be getting paid all that money for doing nothing. You know, so I think there should be things in play and put things in position that help fighters, especially if you're taking money. Maybe it could be something set apart for fighters who, you know, help with certain medical situations and so forth. But the conversation does need to happen, you know. And I do agree with you, G, it's going to take a lot. This is not something that's going to happen overnight. And of course, a lot of people are going to get a lot of backlash. But it's not bad to have this discussion at all, you know, especially of everything that's happened to fighters that we just seen happen recently to another fighter. You know, it'd been good if he didn't make a lot of money, if they could have just put a nice little package together for his family. I don't know if he had kids or something like that. Maybe a sanctioning body would do something special like that. You know what I'm saying? I think that would be dope. put a package together for a fighter if they get injured or have to retire early because of an injury. I thought that would be sweet. But there's me again being a hopeless romantic. But it do have to take place, though. I do think conversations and things to help fighters after boxing, I think that should be taking place.
TBE.
What'd you say, bro? You on mute.
Oh, my fault. They do it for basketball and football, right? Where now they require financial advisors for these athletes, right? To make sure that they don't blow their money away, 4 years, after their career. They have longevity. They have, investments in place for the rest of their lives and hopefully for generations to come after that. Boxing needs to do the same thing.
Before I get into what I said, I totally agree with that. I remember there's a long time ago when it was Kovalev when he got busted for doing like cocaine and everything, and then he batted his girl. Things. I was like, who's in charge to penalize these boxers? And it was like, there's nobody. So boxing needs a commissioner, preferably Trev. But they need somebody to hand out these penalized to regulate these things, and then they also need a what does basketball have? Where like Chris Paul's the head of it. I forgot what it's called.
Players Association.
They need a boxing association where these boxers come together and they speak on what they need and what to make sure they secure their future after boxing, so that they have a retirement plan. They have this and that and the third, but they're not just leaving boxing on their own accord. And now they blew all their money because they don't have the They don't have the celebrity to match their lifestyle, because they were a great boxer, but they was never a great celebrity. But I feel boxing needs to bring these things in just to elevate the sport and also make it dope. But also, one thing I think, these sanctioning fees are BS, and they also need, I would say, instead of charging the champion, you need to charge the fighters. It's like a play-in tournament. Like, you ever play at these poker tournaments where it's like a buy-in fee? There's got to be a buy-in fee. If you want to be champion and you want to prove yourself, you got to pay a certain fee to get the belt. And once you get the belt...
I think they do that, though.
Huh?
I think they do that. Just to get ranked, you got to pay also.
They do. They get that money just for the
they're
people.
just charging everybody.
They are charging. If you want to get ranked in our sanctioning body, you're going to pay to play. You know what I'm saying?
So IRS, I'm going to tell y'all to tap in. That's all I'm saying. Tap in, IRS, because where is money going at this point? It don't make no sense. Like, how are we paying all this money, then we got to pay more money? It's just like, it seems like a Ponzi scheme right now, man. The belts, what's the belts matter? Because if I don't have it, I can still, certain fighters out here who don't have a belt still getting their stardom on.
What you mean? Hold on, certain fighters don't need their belts to get their stardom.
I'm saying there's certain fighters out here without a belt getting their stardom on. You get what I'm saying?
Oh,
yeah.
That's very small. That's like I don't know, man. I hear you though.
Yeah, this is an interesting topic, and you think of ways that things can change, but G brings up an interesting point, like you got to pay to play, right? And like, even if you're a lawyer, you got to pay. Like, every year I got to pay my bar dues, and they send that money, they send that bill, and I got to pay. There's no way I can do it. If I want to be a lawyer, I got to pay it. Otherwise, they're going to take away my license. So the difference is it's just a one-time yearly fee. So like once a year, you got to pay this fee. So, I'm sure that happens in other professions as well. I can only speak about the profession I know. But the point is, like, you got to pay dues. So, and then there's some things you can opt out of. And there's some fees they have, but you can't opt out of them. But one thing you can't opt out of is just paying your dues. So you got to pay that. But when it comes to the sanctioning bodies, I do think it's a bit excessive in the fact that every fight that a fighter has, they have to give you a certain percentage out of their check in order to hold your belt. When I hear about that, it makes me like, no wonder Riddick Bowe threw the belt in the trash. Not only am I paying you all this money, you're treating me like crap. Here, whatever, take your stupid belt. But for me, when I hear Andre Ward speak, and you all touched on a lot of great points, so I don't feel the need to cover those. More so, instead of talking to the sanctioning bodies, why not do something? The sanctioning bodies are not going to tell you anything, and they're not going to change on their own. And what I mean by that is there's certain things you can do. You want fighters to have health care, you want fighters to have a pension, you can make that happen on your own. See, if you get a group of people or a group of fighters across the board now, right? See, everybody talks about this across the street stuff, but in the end, the boxer is a boxer. Say you approach Earl Spence, say you approach Terrence Crawford, say you approach Canelo Alvarez, say you approach these guys, and you're like, yo, we want to create a fund where every fighter could opt in. You don't have to, but if you opt in, we take a percentage of your fight checks, we put it in this fund, and as long as you have a certain amount of fights to make it valuable to keep it in the fund, when you retire, we will give you X amount of dollars for as long as you live, right? Then it will be worth it. And then people can opt in and then they can do it. But you're again, like G said, you're gonna have to figure out who's gonna want to do it. And that's something you can do that doesn't challenge the sanctioning bodies. Not challenging the sanctioning bodies. It's just simply giving fighters an option, right? Instead of when you talk about like life insurance, for example, why not just meet with like what G's point or what Ned pointed out, or G, one of them pointed out what the NBA does. These new NBA players, football players have no choice. They have to sit in this orientation.
Mm-hmm.
They sit in that orientation and they let them know. Why not be the one to do the orientation, Ward? Have you there, have a few other people there and be like, yo, look, this is what it is. This is what we know. This is what you need to look out for. Do you have life insurance? Get some.
Have Floyd do a class.
I don't know.
The sad part is Floyd could be the one funding all this if he wasn't so stuck on a bunch of other things. He could
like,
he could
like
be the
I
leader
did. Y'all can save like how
make
I
smart
did.
investments like I did. Nah, but for real, there are ways that you can do that, and I think if you're passionate about it, you should look into it because, like I said, having helping these fighters get life insurance. Right, because we always talk about it. Anything can happen in that ring, right? You can die in that ring. That's real. We know that. So helping fighters get life insurance. They need medical insurance. Setting it up. Work with a insurance company to where fighters can. You say like, yo, I'm gonna bring in a bunch of fighters, and this is what we want, or whatever. Work with them. Help them get health insurance, right?
Like a boxer's credit union.
Thank you. Exactly. Some like that.
Mm-hmm.
You dig what I'm saying? Like you have the potential to do that, and that's not even feuding with the sanctioning bodies. Now, G, you bring up a great point because like we've been there before. Well, we're gonna do a boycott of this, no buying this, right? Say just for the sake of argument, it's no buying anything from Walmart. But there's always gonna be that person who's like, I'm going to Walmart.
Walmart's got some deals, bruh.
Yeah,
like,
yo, dog, roll back prices, dog. You know what I'm saying? like, I'm going to Walmart. Yeah, for real. So you can't always stop it, but it would be a statement, though. And this is what everyone would have to get on board. If Canelo said, "I'm dropping all my belts," right? If Devin says, "I'm dropping all my belts," if Jamal says, "I'm dropping all my belts," and they all say, "We're not paying another dime. You can give those belts to whomever you want." Everyone's going to know who's the best fighter.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And we refuse to pay another sanctioning fee until these changes are made. See, for me, it's not the fact that there's a sanctioning fee. It's the fact that, you got to pay 3+% every time you have a fight. I can just imagine every time I had to try a case, the board of bar overseers are like, yo, we taking 2%. Yeah, I would be like, yo, what the hell's the point? At least in my case, I know once a year they coming for dues, right? Why can't the WBC and all the other sanctioning bodies be that way? Once a year, you paying some dues. If you want to be ranked, once a year, you pay these dues. And it's a set fee. Why does it need to be 3% of this? Like, what? It's insane. It's insane. So I think more so when it comes to Andre Ward, I feel everything he's saying. We've been saying this for the longest time, but my thing is, why speak to them? Why wait for them? Right? If you want to change the game, you got to change the mind of the fighters. Well, why not? Be like, yo, we hold these orientations like 4 times a year, hosted by me, Bernard Hopkins, whomever wants to be involved. Maybe Timothy Bradley's going to want to get involved or whatever. But those guys are all going to look at you all like guys who've done it. And guys who is going to tell their story and explain like the importance of it. And maybe you can help them that way instead of waiting for the sanctioning bodies, because you already know they ain't gonna want to stop their bread. They ain't gonna want to stop their money. As far as I'm concerned, and people wonder why someone asked this question, like, oh, I think it was when I said that Lennox Lewis was undisputed, and someone was like, oh, he wasn't undisputed. He let these belts go at the time. I'm like, bro, yeah, he let them belts go because he was like, yo, you're not going to tell me who to fight, and then I got to pay you and whatever. That's why he let them belts go, but no one beat him to stop him from being undisputed. So I know who the champ is. I know who the champ was. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. I don't know if you could ever stop the sanctioning bodies. You're going to just have to do your own thing, but you can do your own thing. So I would just encourage Ward and any of these other fighters who really feel passionate about educating these up and coming fighters on like financial literacy, having medical insurance, having life insurance, being able to pay your bills or whatever. And the importance of life insurance is with the policies they'll be able to get because they're physically fit, young, the type of money they got. If something happened to them, their families could inherit a lot of money. So that would be a way to go that, I think he should opt into. But there are a number of ways you can change the game. One thing we could all agree on, the boxing game is corrupt, probably the most corrupt business out there. Maybe UFC's up there too, and when all is said and done. So, but yeah, I agree with everything he said.
Let us know how you feel in the comment section. Please like and subscribe. Check us out on Instagram and Twitter. And please check out our podcast on all major streaming services. Elevation out now on all major streaming services. I want to let y'all know right now to please tune in June 14th. That's a Tuesday, 5 p.m. to the Boxing
5:30.
5:30, excuse me, to the brothers on the Boxing Bros listening party. I want y'all to tune in. It's definitely going to be fire. I'm the commissioner, Trill Dollar Bill. That's Poppy G, formerly known as Conspiracy G. That's the TBE. And that's my bro, Caden. And you know who you rocking with. It's the Boxing Bros. We appreciate you.